Yeah, I know. You got that email?
Take a truckload of stuff out to them, and I was a little shocked. I was looking for the compost heap. I was looking, I was like, it's not all going right here, is it? So yeah, it all goes in this one spot. So all of our waste goes on our property tax. So it kept going up every year. We recycle it ourselves. Well, you're still getting a good can, and you're still paying for it. So I like that you guys are, looking ahead to see what's coming. And
Well, I mean, I didn't want to hold up.
System. We've been doing it ever since I've been running solid waste, and we still have to do questions. And it's like, yeah, and it's like, so as of right now, we're still picking them up on Monday, and then that ends in October. Then it goes back to regular putting out with your trash.
So I just want to
Okay, yeah, so whenever, yeah.
we do have a lot of things we have to
Yeah, next one. I counted my comments today, so I didn't realize.
Routinely and has to give reports for dues ever since he's been there.
Our landfill was one of the best run in the state. Last time I heard, we actually had people come to our landfill, all of our landfills in the state, asking how we do things because ours is so well run. But it's just a function of science, chemistry, biology. We have bugs in there, and we have organic material, and when it breaks down, it's methane. And we're just making that methane that's exceeding limits.
I just wanted to see one thing and kind of say, hey, Arlen,
Can you mute that video and get a chance?
we do a good job.
Oh, it's not muted?
Had one
Or stop it,
live well that
and then we'll play it in just a minute.
I was just trying to get the sound to work.
Oh, it was working.
Okay. Call a meeting to order. Item one, roll call.
Commissioner Allen?
Present.
Commissioner Norwood?
Here.
Commissioner Siragusa will be in later this evening. Commissioner Roberts?
Here.
Commissioner Stallings?
Here.
Commissioner Orr?
Here.
Mayor Pinkinen?
Here. All righty, thank you. Item number two, at the Commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the regular session agenda.
I would like to discuss the payment for the property behind the Korean church. I see that it's back on the agenda for it doesn't appear that it's been changed. The amount is still $6,000 for that property, and I was on it today. I looked at it, and it does seem a little high. But on the other hand, I don't know how we came to that number is what I'd like to know, if it was, so there you are, Morelli. Hi.
Hello.
Can you tell us how we arrived? Was that his number or our number?
Commissioner, do we want to wait till Commissioner Saragusa gets here, or we can do it now and do it again? 'Cause
We can
you
wait
wanted
till
that
he's
too.
here because he's adamant about his feelings for that. You asked, so I said, so if you want to hold that off, that'd be fine with me to wait till he's here.
Yeah.
And then we'll definitely cover that for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think we've got the best answer we've got, right, Morelli?
Yes.
And we're just trying to solve problems. But hey,
let's
just a few.
Let's wait till he
And
gets
we're
here.
ready to solve problems, so
So how about any other items on the agenda?
I'm good.
Okay. So we will kind of sort of halfway table that till the later part of the meeting. Item 3, study items. Item 3.1, discuss the green polycart program.
Yeah, and I'll kick it off. We talked about this, it's been maybe a couple months ago or so. And then we had a public meeting recently. David's going to update you on what we think, and then we'll talk about it some more.
Okay.
You want to play the highlights? Is that what you want? What do you
No,
want?
just a presentation. I think that'll be fine.
I do not have a 3.1 presentation.
Green
Oh.
card,
It was a late ad, Dana.
up at the top.
That one?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I missed.
Wrong, I put in the wrong folder, actually. So we really had a very productive public meeting. I think we had about 12 citizens, residents who were there. A lot of really good questions and feedback about the program. I'll go through this again, but this was essentially the presentation that I gave the commission. I did add a survey that we did. Essentially, we took about the top 30 cities in the state and asked them a series of questions about what they do, what their cost structure is. Do they have a composting program? If they do, is it connected to other parts of the program? How much is the cost? How do they pick up trash? And by and large, the result that came back through the process of questioning all these cities is Enid does some special things, but we are the only one who does it like we do. And there's certain reasons that we do that. We own our own landfill, which a lot of places don't. We actually run our own system. So there's a few things that are there, but reasons for the grass program or the grass pickup essentially was originally based on the idea that we would be composting it. And at this point, we're not. And to get back to composting, if we wanted to, there's a lot of steps and things that we would have to do, and we would not create those markets that would generate revenue and have that offset for that programs that we've actually researched would do. So the economics really didn't work. I'll go through this very quickly. I'm just gonna go through these because we did talk about this earlier, but we talked about some other programs. Let me go back over here, I'm sorry. So essentially we did a statewide survey, and from a cost standpoint, this is kind of hard to see, but Enid is toward the lowest of the card costs, and any additional card costs were actually also to the lowest of the card costs across the entire state. So we are doing a pretty good job, and we're keeping those costs low, and we want to keep that. But at the same time, we have this program that essentially is free, being subsidized by everybody else, and is not serving the purpose that it originally was. So we'll go through the cost, but our current plan at this point, the season ended, no changes, but at this point in time, the restrictions on the green cart, only brush, only grass, are going to go away. The pickup day for next season for the green cart will change. We will not have a Monday pickup. We will essentially have it picked up on the same day as your trash, which is what a lot of the other cities do. They don't have that separate day pickup, and that does save on fuel. Everything will go in there, and for the rest of the next year, essentially we'll keep the program free to the community. But the thing that we just want to impress is that amount of growth in a single part of our program really is something that shouldn't be subsidized. It's just, there's a lot of financial reasons why it's not from a transparency standpoint, because we should be able to tell you how much each of these actions cost, and right now we're not doing that. So we are working at doing some data mining to get the counts on who has what trash can. We're going to be looking at it very closely over the next year, and then essentially we'll have some communication out to the residents and citizens saying, if you have a green cart, if you have extra carts, there will be a cost. We'll get that cost structure out, and when we see it out there, they will be charged for that service. There may be a sliding scale, there may be a change. At this point, we're not totally sure, but there will be a fee for those additional carts. The other part of this is, if for some reason we say that and someone says, hey, maybe I don't need all these carts because of this cost, then we can take them back or something like that. I did say something the other day, free things, incentivize use. And, that's kind of just the way the capital system works. If there's a cost, people are going to modify their use to what the market provides. So we want our citizens to be using something efficiently, and we'll kind of balance the costs with the use. And right now, there's no balance. So if I get 12 carts, I'm just gonna get 12 carts and use them. I'm not incentivized to be efficient as a resident, as a customer. And that also has to be something on the other side of the coin. So, like, once again, at the end of next season, we will come back and we'll put out our final pricing structure, and that's what we'll go forward with. And that's at this point what we are suggesting.
Yeah, I think just to follow up on a few things David's talked about, every year we have a set season. I think it's something like April to October.
Yes.
And the idea is that the program originated to pick up yard waste and brush and carry it away. And the way that we implemented the process is someone would buy the poly cart. I think it was whatever it cost. I think it's 65 or something now. And then they would have that cart, and then we would just pick it up on Mondays as a service. That worked okay when we were doing composting. You'll remember last time we talked about our composting equipment is broken down, and really there's no demand for compost really at all, I think. And it's going to cost about $1 million. I think you had a slide you flip through real quickly if you want to review that.
1.2 million.
So we don't think we're ever going to start the composting. Additionally, we talked about Spark, and with what they're doing, we're really recycling by putting organic waste into the landfill that breaks down, recycles into methane, which is harvested, and then we get a payment from that at some point. So I feel like we are recycling. So to clarify what the process that's really operational and in place now is, the end of the season's come. So at the end of the season, people could still put out their green poly cart, but the way the program used to be, they had to use the green poly cart just for yard waste still, and not any trash, even in the off season. And that caused some frustration sometimes from customers, because they would see, because in the off season, the trash truck already comes on the same day to pick up those poly carts and puts it in the same trash truck as the rest of the trash. So that would be frustrating to our customers. So what we're suggesting, since we're already in the off season, is that people can continue to put out their green poly carts, but we're suggesting we move to, you can put whatever you want in that green poly cart, the same as the blue poly cart, and we're going to continue to pick it up on the day of your regular trash day and dispose of it in the landfill. So really the only question we have is, what are we going to do in the future, like a year from now? Because clearly we're not looking to change price structures on green poly carts now.
Right.
The price structure's been zero. It's been nothing. We already have a price structure on blue poly carts, which is the first one's included in your $14 fee that you pay for your monthly trash service. If you want a second one, I think it's $5.50.
$5.50.
And if you want a third one, I think it's another $5.50.
Yep.
So when David's talking about accumulating poly carts, what happens sometimes, and we talked about it last time, with the green poly cart, I know I've inherited one, and I bought one. And so I think other people are like that. If somebody moves out and you move into their house and they left their green poly cart, guess what? You inherited a poly cart. So in the future, you'll be able to put whatever you want. You could still put it yard waste, you could put trash, you could put bag trash, and we'll pick it up. Somewhere a year from now or so, or maybe we set the pricing structure before that time kicks in. I'm going to say roughly October 1st. Again, we're just talking. This isn't the finalized plan. We would still continue to pick up your green poly cart just like we will this week and next week. But we're suggesting that we should charge for that green poly cart just like it's a blue one, and get away from the concept of blue, green. It really doesn't matter. You can put whatever trash you want or whatever yard waste you want, and then we'll pick it up for that monthly fee. So that's what, I don't know that I made it any shorter, David, but that's about the same as what.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's answer questions.
So, would they be able to put anything in the green cart year-round or just off-season?
Year-round, anything that's allowed in a blue cart. So there are a few things that we do not allow in a blue cart, but year-round, essentially, the green cart or additional carts are just going to be carts.
Okay.
So we're going to try and simplify what you put in there, and then essentially try and just, optimize what we're getting out of it.
So it won't matter what color their cart is eventually?
For the most part. And I think over time, green cart, like a green cart breaks, we replace it with a blue cart so that we don't have the, and that may take a while because there's a lot of green carts out there and they may never go away. But the idea is you would have 6 carts. We don't care what color they are.
And then you're going to suggest that possibly in a year that there would be an upcharge for having an extra cart, whether it's green or blue, it would just be considered an extra cart.
Yes.
That's what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Because we bought those green carts, I for 50 and now for 65, but there'll be like a $5.50 upcharge for emptying it if I choose to keep it.
Yes.
Okay.
And it may change because perhaps there is a threshold to where your third or your fourth cart maybe doesn't need to be $5.50 because the truck is going to be there at the same time. So there may be some economies of scale that we can get by someone having additional carts. But once again, I think if you have additional carts, just like any service, I think there should be at least some sort of
And that gets back to
structure.
capitalism, which I talked about. I just remembered something from economics, that when stuff is free, the pricing mechanism functions as a rationing mechanism. Well, when it's free, there's no rationing mechanism. So while we could set the price on multiple polycarts, one would ask, what is our rationale for that? Because if someone is generating 4 polycarts full of trash, if they have to pay for that, they would have an incentive built in to not produce as much trash. So, but what we do charge, obviously, is in the purview of the city commission. It's not going to be an issue for, I'm going to say, till October 1st, because we're not interested in trying to charge people for green polycarts that they paid for. In fact, that's part of a rationale for doing it for a year for free, because if you just bought a polycart at $65, divide that by $5.50 and you would have recovered your investment. Also, to prevent this problem going forward, we're not going to sell green polycarts anymore.
Yeah.
We'll issue blue polycarts if people want them, and that comes with a fee that's already set at $5.50. So that's our effort to try and continue to handle yard waste, but transition the program away from selling carts and picking yard waste up for free.
So basically, a residence that has an extra polycart, they're gonna pay $22 extra per month if we went $5.50 per.
If they have one
for the
cart,
additional polycart, is that how that's gonna work?
No, if they have one cart, you mean?
Mm-hmm. They have
They would
one
just pay an
extra cart,
additional.
an
They
additional
would just pay an additional $5.50 per month.
for the whole month?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it would be $19.50 if my math is
Yeah.
right, for 2 carts.
Yeah, so if they have
It'd show
the
up on
two-
your bill as 14 and $5.50, because that's the
Yeah.
way we bill it.
It would
Okay,
be
so it's
broke
not
out
a
to show
charge
each
each
cart.
week.
Yeah, each cart would have its
Okay.
associated cost with it. And if, let's just say the fourth cart was $4, I'm just throwing in a number, you would see the $4 as an additional charge per month.
Okay.
Okay, and is the charge of $5.50 for the polycarts, is that the number of polycarts you put out?
No, it would be the ones that are on your, they would be the ones on your account. And we could get to the point of capturing what you put out when you put out, and there's technology to do that, but
Okay.
if you want to do that, there's a cost to have.
We're not really going to go, I don't visualize that we're going to go on a hunt
Yeah.
looking for carts. What will happen is over time,
Right.
when the time comes, next year, late in the year, if you put out an extra cart or two, your solid waste worker will pay attention to that. And at some point, we'll say, hey, there should be another charge on that account, or 2 charges if it's
Right.
2 carts. So again, we have no desire, your green polycart, if you never want to use it again, it's yours to keep because
Right.
you bought it. It's just, if you use it to haul away trash, at some point, we think that we should probably charge that the same as an additional
And we have,
cart.
I found kind of an older data set. We actually have some pretty good records on, essentially our data is associated with the address. So if an address, if a cart was bought at my house per se, and it wasn't even bought by me, I have that information going back about 10, 12 years. So we'll be able to get a pretty good estimate of who has what. And then with that estimate, we'll start looking at this house and that house and figure out how these two things mesh about what we have on the books and what's actually out in the system.
I have a couple questions about yard waste and how you're going to deal with yard waste at the landfill. right now, especially during storm times and times when there's a lot of waste being generated, it comes out there, individuals bring it, and they're allowed one trip a month or something like that?
Yeah, 12 trips per year.
12 trips per year?
Yes, sir.
And is that going to continue?
Yes.
So my question is, what are you going to do with that? You're just going to pick it up? Typically, they have a special place that we put it.
Well, we put the stuff, we stage it outside the landfill, and right now, we actually grind it up. We've modified our landfill permit to do something called alternative cover. So we can actually use the wood chips, the mulch, to cover the trash on a daily basis. And that's organic matter, which essentially is something that Spark has taken into consideration in their calculations for methane
I
generation.
understand all that. So you're going to continue to chip it?
Yes.
Okay, so your chipper's not your big problem in the composting?
Yeah, I think our biggest problem with the composting, we went down to Midwest City, not last week, but the week before, and saw their operation. And as I said before, most of the compost is mixed with biosolids from wastewater, which enhances the amount of nutrients. They talked about the line of people that would come to buy their product, and literally they said they can't keep up with the demand. We don't have that here. So and this is what I experienced in Denton, and this is what Midwest City, they were spending approximately $280,000 to dispose of it. And then they saw when they started selling it and making compost about a $500,000 swing from negative 280 up to about about 750,000.
You're bogging me down in another thread.
Yes.
My gist of this discussion was, are we not fearful that we're going to have more trash left in people's yards doing it like this, as opposed to
More trash.
yeah, in the limbs and stuff when they're worried about they can't get it hauled off, or if let's say they don't want to pay the money for the poly cart.
Well, the limbs, typically limbs after a storm or when you're doing landscaping, that's a bulk pickup. That's not going in your bin. That's something where our clamshells, our grapple trucks, come out and pick it up. So I don't think there's going to be a real change in that dynamic. You know, your grass, small limbs, yeah.
There's still a lot of, especially typically we see it in the underserved community sometimes, they just don't pick it up. So it lays on the ground, and if it's harder for them to dispose of it, I'm concerned that we're going to see it's not going to be as pretty as it is now. And that's all I'm raising is that
there's a possibility of that in every situation. However, I think, especially from just a individual ownership, people who are going to take care of the yards are going to take care of the yards. People who aren't probably are going to have some incentive to get them to.
I don't disagree with you. I'm not sure that's the answer.
Oh, and I guess my answer is I don't know that a fee on the carts is going to change that individual behavior one way or the other.
Yeah, that's probably.
And I could be totally wrong, but.
No, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
There's still an option to put those limbs in your blue poly cart if you want to.
Yeah.
But I understand that if you only have one poly cart and you fill it up with trash, there's no room left for limbs.
Yeah, and we are trying to get, one of the things that was brought up at the meeting as an option, since we are kind of imposing a little bit of a fee, is potentially some free days to where you put it out on the curb, you let us know, similar to what we did with the neighborhood cleanups, and we go out there and en masse pick it up over the course of 2 or 3 weeks. And that's just citywide, and if anybody wants to participate, they participate, but they got to get on the list. And that would potentially offset that, both in well-to-do and in economically depressed neighborhoods. That was actually one of the things that they responded to pretty well about that as a fix. And that would help for things like beautification and, getting that debris off of there. And that would not just be limbs, that would be couches, which couches are probably worse than limbs in front of someone's house. I guess.
So a little bit of clarification on that. In the past, you can drive your own limbs out there.
Yes.
And dump them, and there's no charge for that. The 12 visits are for the roll-off containers that you can just pull up to and drop stuff into. That's what that's intended.
Yeah, the 12 visits are still going to be there as an option.
Right.
So that is an option.
But it's not counted as a visit when you just take your limbs or yard waste out.
No, I believe that's.
So you need to be advised of that.
I did not realize that. I thought
Yeah.
you had 12 trips out there, and basically one a month, and regardless of what you brought or where you took it.
Nope. No, because we want people to be able to get rid of that stuff if they want to on their own. That's the easiest thing for the city is when I take my limbs and trash that out there. I might add that because we own our own landfill, I'm a big fan of it. We take a lot of things that most other communities don't allow at all. There's white goods that we accept out there of some nature. Do we let tires?
No, we have those.
But you can
diverted.
take paint. You can take.
Paint if it's latex and you let it dry. So
Okay.
there are some issues there are some constraints on certain things like that.
Computers, we still allow that?
But we do, but those are also diverted as a part of a specialized
Right,
space for
there's
recycling.
certain areas in the landfill that as you pull in, you see where the
Yes.
paint is, and you get to dispose of that, and that's a big service, and there's no charge for it.
Yeah.
It's part of your 12 visits, but it's hard to use 12 visits in a year, so I think we do a great job with our landfill, and because of that, I don't know if our expenses are less or are more if we were like a town that had to pay a landfill to take our trash.
Well, a great example of this is because we have our own landfill, those biosolids from the wastewater plant that have to be disposed of, we're just disposing of them for free. But we actually ran the calculation to say if we had to take them to a commercial landfill at our rates, just our rates, which are the lowest in the state, if it was a private landfill, it would be more expensive. That's approximately $260,000 to $300,000 annually. So there are a lot of offsets that we already get because of what we have in the city.
And the last note on that is that there's plenty of room out there for us to start new cells when it's time to. We can expand a lot out there. We won't see the end of that. So.
Yeah, I think I will probably be retired before we have a date that we can see the landfill complete. And honestly, there's a lot more technology where people are doing things like mining landfills. So you have a landfill that was sitting there for 20 years. You go back in, you kind of dig it up and see if you can find anything useful. And then that takes out that space. A lot of the organic material can be utilized for other reasons. And then you can open up that cell again and reuse it. I mean, that's not an infinite time scale, but you do have the ability to recycle that. So there are some options long-term too that we have because we manage ours. And, you know, technology is changing very rapidly in the world. So I foresee a lot of opportunities because we do have our own landfill. Just like Spark. Spark wouldn't have been a thing 20, 30 years ago. It just wouldn't have been a thing. Wouldn't even have been on anybody's radar.
Okay. Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you.
Keith is here, so do we want to, let's go ahead and, Keith, while you were gone, Commissioner Allen asked us to talk about 7.2, which is the $6,000, so let's go ahead and do that now. You want to start out with your...
I was just wait for Morales' report. I wanted to bring it up so we could talk about it now instead of in regular session when it, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. The land, the trail that was built, that was donated by the Korean church with no cost to the city. And usually when we buy the easement, we buy the temporary plus permanent easement. So when they donated the easement, we did not even ask for the temporary easement. So they said, okay, whatever you want to do, just go ahead and build it. That's how they approached it. So when we put the project together and entire construction is completed, until we finished the project, we didn't know there was a tenant. And church didn't mention to us. I mean, we didn't ask that question. Church didn't mention, like there was no conversation about the tenant. So at the end of the project, tenant came back and said, hey, you literally disturbed the land, my topsoil is gone, and the contractor drove around it, and we did not show the contractor the limits of the construction. So, but he took care of majority of it, but there was a damage to the topsoil and the land. The tenant came back and said, hey, because you drove everything, and there is an $8,000 damage to me, my property. And there was a, his truck was, tractor discs were broken, and there were multiple things he keep on adding to it. So I said, like, there was no $8,000, so we started with $3,000, so we made it $6,000 limit.
So it started at 8 and he came down to 6.
Yes.
So he's holding us accountable because he's got crummy equipment out there disking his land?
I cannot go and inspect his equipment, so I
But I
did
mean, that's essentially what he's saying, is that damage to his equipment is
Yep.
where we come up with $6,000?
Well, it's the damage to the equipment, the topsoil,
yeah.
you know, he's claiming trespass. The bottom line is this came at the end. Normally, these issues come to us or we find out about them early. This one, it's my understanding we were near the end. In fact, maybe we were doing a final inspection, and the guy comes to us, and we were simply trying to solve a problem. We may have not have hit the mark on the value, but the spirit of what we were trying to do was just solve a problem, and we are happy to follow the direction of the commission tonight when you guys take that up again and vote. And I think it's fine for you to, if you feel like you should reduce the value, that's fine. I will communicate with whatever the action is. I'll communicate with Morali to the guy tomorrow, Mr. Botts, and I'm sure he'll be, well, depends on what happens. He may not be happy, but either way, we'll have done the best that we can, and from the city's perspective. So it's not as scientific maybe as we would, like maybe it would have been if we'd known about this in the beginning and we were paying somebody directly for an easement, or, but it is what it is. So we want to make sure that, you know, I don't know that our explanation's any better than that. So if we have questions, we'll try to answer them, and I guess we'll ask you guys to take up the question again and consider and do what you think is appropriate, and we will execute that.
It's what brought it to my, you know, that in the, on the agenda, it says that he has accepted the $6,000 as settlement. And so when he does that, because we didn't know about the $8,000 first, so he has come down to $6,000.
Yes.
And although I don't like the taste of it, I don't like to have to go back on what you guys set up. On the other hand, there's always room for improvement too. We're just in an awkward spot on this one, I think, and maybe we aren't. I don't know, but that's definitely why I wanted to talk about it now, so that we could see if we can come to a threshold that would be, and I don't think we're allowed to throw around numbers or anything like that, but eventually we're going to have to, because I would imagine that we need resolution at the end of this night. We don't need this to go on for several more sessions. We need to come to a determination. And the man has said he wants $6,000, and he came down to that amount, and that's what our team brings before us. And so there's a lot to be said about that. So
Yeah.
you just
Carol,
need to think about it.
Carol, I have a legal question. Do we have a verbal contract with this person for the amount that we're talking about? That could be enforceable? In other words, if we go back and say 4,000, can he sue us and say, wait a minute, breach of contract?
Well, he accepted our offer, and staff has the authority to bind the city up to $50,000.
Right.
And we did effectively trespass on his leasehold interest. So I don't think in small claims court, I'm pretty sure that the judge would probably think 6,000 was a lot, maybe, but he'd also think we need to get our easements before we get on the property.
Right. Okay. All right. Keith, you got anything else?
My question is, was it the city that had done this, city employees, or a contractor that was doing work for the city?
The contractor did it, but he was doing it on our behalf, and we get the easements. So,
He was hired by us.
you know, a contractor would have been told, go out and do it, and probably was told it doesn't really, you know, there wasn't any issues with where he was putting his heavy trucks and that sort of thing, because we didn't know that there were issues.
Well, as a contractor myself, I carry general liability insurance and bonds and different things to protect my business. So if I do a contract for someone else, as a contractor, I'm liable, not the individuals or the customers that I'm doing the work for. That's why we have to have insurance as contractors
I
in
understand
order to
that.
do work for the city of Enid.
I understand that, but I don't think that the contractor was particularly doing anything he wasn't supposed to do. He just, there wasn't a specific place for him to put his equipment because we didn't think that we needed it.
In hindsight, in that regard, if I'm going out tearing out a road and I hit a gas line, I'm liable, not the city of Enid. I'm doing the work for
Well-
the city of Enid, so I'm liable. I have to call my insurance company. That's why we call Okie
Right?
before we dig. So
Yes.
then we turn that into the insurance company, and the insurance company,
This
we
is,
do all the red tape.
this is
And it's
our
not
mis-
liable for the
but
city
this
of
is-
Enid.
This is our mistake. It is not the contractor's mistake. And I don't think that he did anything wrong. Was there, I mean, we didn't tell him he had done something wrong. We just said, you know, found out. I mean, I assume we were going to accept the project until the fellow shows up and says, hey, I'm the leasehold person, and, you know, you haven't compensated me.
And also, I don't think they have any like lease document. So it's handshake lease, or I don't know, like he couldn't provide any lease document. So it's like, and
It
I mean,
is,
like,
it is probably also complicated because I believe that people that we got the free easement from, English is not their first language. So probably it's just a calamity of errors, and it had, as far as I know, we've not had this happen. Although I think from time to time we have strayed from our temporary easements accidentally. But it's up to you guys.
See, and that's where I brought up the issue was they don't have documents. So how do we know that he's even leasing up to that point? Because he said so?
or take his word.
Well, I'm on the other side of it. Prove me wrong. I got this amount of damage because of it. You see what I'm saying is there's guys coming at us with $8,000 worth of stuff. He don't even have documentation that he actually has a lease there.
Well, that is.
And we're just gonna give
Okay.
$8,000 away,
Okay,
or
but that-
$6,000
but
away.
that is-
I got an issue with that.
That is a common, when my husband and I bought our property, there was handshake deals with like farmers about like the field and stuff. And, you know, there was
That's
nothing in
understandable,
writing.
But you have fencing around yours, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Blocks
I mean,
off your property.
I guess what I'm saying is.
Is there any fencing
this-
around his
This
field
farmer guy
whatsoever?
has done
So how do
my,
we know what he's actually farming and what he ain't farming?
I guess all I was saying is that it is not unusual that, I think Mr. Simrad, for like, ever since he stopped farming his own stuff, he had a handshake deal with a farmer to do the field. And so when we bought the property, he said, you want to do the handshake deal with the farmer, I'll just call him and say, talk to Carol or Larry. And there was never any written, I mean, I guess all I was saying is it's not like not having a lease or a rental agreement if you've got a house. With farm stuff, sometimes less is better. At least it has been for the 10 years I've lived on the property. The farmer's done a good job, and I try not to talk to him because he talks about stuff I don't understand. Okay.
So we have a contract with this man to give him $6,000.
Yeah.
And we need to do that. As much as we might not like it, we have a contract with that man. He has accepted payment as $6,000. He has not accepted payment of $2,000 or $500. He's accepted payment of $6,000. I don't know that I like it any better than anybody else, but he's accepted payment.
Jared,
We offered payment.
More than that, it was negotiated.
why are we hearing it if we don't, if it's a done deal?
Well, I've asked that question myself, Commissioner, and I'm sure in the future we will handle these types of deals differently. We did tell them, or him, Mr. Botts, that it is up to the commission. They have to approve it. And so I hate it that this is causing a lot of dissension, and maybe rightfully so. There's good points here. But I'm sitting here flashing through my mind some of the things we paid for some Call Lake easements to people in this community that still irritate me, and that's not the issue we have before us. So we're happy to do whatever you guys think. We would like you to make a decision tonight, and we will tell Mr. Botts whatever that decision is.
But going on the easements, this is like comparing apples and oranges. Going on the easement, that's the property owner. That's not a leasing.
This is damages.
This is damages to the property owner. Okay, what we paid for our right-of-ways. This is a leasee of this property.
But oftentimes we have someone who, the property owner has rented the place, and usually the temporary easement is the person who's rented the spot, not the owner. I mean, this is we commonly
Yes, and
have.
usually there's a written contract that shows where they lease, what they lease, and everything else, so it's common knowledge. Because I can go back to the fact that the pipeline that runs through the property that Benny's Barn leases from the city. We gave them the easement rights because we had to be part of that in negotiations. Okay, so we knew what they were taking care of and everything else. Gerald was involved in that.
Right.
Clint Claypole was involved in that. And the easements were specific as not to disrupt our business.
Right.
And everything else. This is all done, and all of a sudden this guy comes out of the blue and says, I farm all of this property and everything else, give me money. This is what we got to prevent in the future. Because the city of Eden is not a piggy bank. We don't just give out money for damages.
I understand completely, and obviously
unless
from now
there's
on,
actual.
we will ask, whenever we've got some fields, we will ask, hey, do you have, who is mowing this, or who is farming this for you? And we will ask in the future, clearly. This will not escape the attention of the engineering department, clearly.
I think this is we never had a donated easement before. So every time when we buy it, we have precise steps followed, because we have a paid easement, we have a temporary easement. So
Exactly, but we were donated the property, specific property, by the owner of that property. We had specific spots where that was going through, okay? If the owner says, yeah, you can send it right through there and everything else, and they have a lease with that, that's not on us. That is on the property owner.
And we have had we have had some instances of easements being given. You know, Mr. Gilbert gave
I can
easements,
think of
and
one, but
Mr. Berry has
I'm-
given.
yes,
But-
Mr.
And Mr.
Berry and I
Berry
had-
almost always gives all of the easements that we need.
Hey,
So-
but just, we would like to answer your questions. In the end, was it the best deal that we made? Obviously, you guys have rightfully brought some problems to our attention. We will pay more attention. We will follow your direction tonight with however you vote. I think when you do get to the vote, I think it's in your purview to consider the amount. And Carol can advise you at that time. So I just, I want to make sure we answer your questions. I just kind of hate it that we're getting bogged down, rightfully so, on some issues.
Yeah, I think everybody understands the issues. I think now it's down to, I think we've learned a lesson. I think everybody here has learned a lesson. I think there's enough spotlight on it. And I think we're at the point now where we've negotiated an agreement, and now it's whether we want to stand behind the agreement that was negotiated on our behalf or we don't. And I think we lose face maybe if we don't stand behind the people that we've hired to do the job. So do we like it? Maybe not. But is our reputation worth something? And I think it is. So unless there's more discussion, we'll go ahead and press on with that, and we can consider it during the regular session. Good? Thank you. All right, item 3.2, update on engineering projects.
Jason, you get to follow.
Yes.
Good news.
Yeah. I hope good news now. Just kidding. It's all good news. We're moving right along on several projects, and I'm going to talk about a handful of them. Most of them are that I've got slides for are street and roadway projects, and I'll touch bases on a couple waterline projects as well, and also another large roadway project towards the end. West Elm Street, over between Van Buren and Independence. The water line construction on that is nearly complete, and so the roadway construction is actually fixing to begin this month. We actually had our pre-construction meeting with the contractor today, and he's ready to start on the 10th. So we'll be doing our news releases and things of that nature, and it's going to take him about a year to complete. Summer of 2023 is when we'll be looking at that. One note on this one, it escapes me, and it always does. Name of that school there? Emerson, thank you. We're going to work around Emerson as much as we can, and we're going to focus construction kind of over on the east end until it gets closer to the holidays, and then we're going to take advantage of the couple weeks that they're out of school to do the 2 blocks that are in front of the school, at least get as much completed there while the kids are out, and then so it'll be a short time frame of that roadway being closed. We've worked hand in hand with Dr. Robertson and Mr. Garrison on that with them. So.
Is your contractor doing both the pipeline and the roadway work?
It was 2 separate contractors. 2
separate. Are you going to put all the pipeline in and get it finished and then come in and do the roadway work?
Exactly, yeah. I think they lack, the waterline guys lack, don't they lack tying into Independence? So it's
essentially done?
It's essentially done, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the roadway work is just going to start?
Just fixing to start this.
In the holiday season is what you're saying?
Yep. Next project that's kind of underway, it's started, but just barely started. It started at the beginning of September. East Birch over between 16th and 23rd. The water line relocation on it was completed last summer, I believe. And so they're done and out of the way. And the contractor has started over on 16th Street. And I believe he's got approximately about a block done, maybe half a block done. And he's going to be working his way from west to east on that one. While I'm on Birch Street, 23rd, you move over a block. We had a large water main break again this week over on Birch and 24th. Raleigh, do you want to kind of add any notes to that?
Yeah, this is a main 24-inch line that serves our industrial users. So because of this dry season, the land is shrinking, and we have problems like, close to 20 water leaks currently we are chasing. This is one of the biggest one, and finally we kind of plan to fix this week. So, and there is a lot of disruption in that area.
I think.
How long do you think it'll take, a week or two, or?
It's going to be taking a week.
Okay.
We can actually accomplish the water shut off with no interruption to any services.
There are a handful of people that
Yeah.
are tied to 24. Yeah.
Just a handful of people. It's a large involved shutdown. It goes from 4th Street all the way over to 30th Street, the shutdown that's involved. So kudos to the water department for a handle on that with us. Project which is just about complete, East Maple, 10th to 16th. Spoke with the contractor today. Everything is completed from 11th Street all the way over to 16th Street. So basically they lack that last block and a half or so, in which I speaking with the contractor. It sounds like they'll be done in about a month. So I know there's a lot of people excited for that stretch of street to be reopened and available. Water line was done on that a while back too. Grand and Garrett intersection. I'm sure a lot of us have noticed it's about halfway complete, maybe 3/4 complete. They're starting on their third of their fourth corner to pour back the concrete. I believe they're going to start that this week if they haven't already. Currently, signals are done, water line's done, and like I said, the corner nodes for the ADA ramps and stuff will be completed. There will be some touch-up work that's got to be done there once the sidewalks are done, but it shouldn't be nothing too complicated. And then currently under construction is East Chestnut between 10th and Davis. Stormwater's near the complete. I think they lack a couple tie-ins, couple inlets. The water line is installed between 10th and 11th. They're working on the 11th to Davis part. Roadway, most of the backfill from the stormwater pipe is down, and they're doing their final grading. I've asked the contractor to focus on 10th, the intersection of 10th and Chestnut, to get that reopened, because I know that's 10th Street's a busy street. You get that back open to the public. That's all the slides I've got. One other little update I'd like to give is over on Hayes and Garrett, where we had the 12-inch main break 3 weeks ago. Pipeline's fixed, and we got the concrete poured back, I believe today, maybe yesterday. And so we're just going to let that cure out, and we can get those lanes reopened. We know that there is some voids underneath Garrett that we're going to have to take care of. I'm working with a contractor that does, it's called ground penetrating radar. It sounds fancy, but it's really not that fancy. But they'll go through and find voids and locations where there's missing subgrade, and that way we can pinpoint our repairs to where it needs to be versus just tearing up and searching for them. So that should be happening probably within the next week, maybe 2 weeks. They're out of Kansas City. One other update, and I forgot to share this with you. I don't know if Scott did. I actually got an email from ODOT that our project on Cleveland between Willow and the railroad tracks is ready to be let. So we have cleared all right-of-ways and utilities. There's still a little bit of utility work, but I've documented that they'll have it done and out of the way by the time they start. So.
Good news.
So when do you think that might start?
I think the letting process happens in December or January? January. So it'd probably be 3 months of that. So that would fall probably into this late spring, early summer for construction is what I think we're hoping.
Are we thinking that we're going to close that section of road during this, or we're going to try to keep a lane open, or how's it going to work?
The intent for our construction, which is everything north of the railroad tracks to Willow, our intent is to leave a lane or leave a lane or at least 2 lanes open during the entirety of the construction. I can't speak for the railroad for BNSF.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And also there is a box So I think the box needs to be closed during the time of the
Right,
construction.
yes, yep. There'll be a small swell in there for that north end up by Jumbo's will be closed.
The water repair on Garrett, it's about done. I saw they poured the concrete, so that should be open in a day or two, or?
Yeah, I can get 3 days roughly, 3 or 4 days.
This is an opportunity too, if there's something, we're doing a lot of engineering, we're doing a lot of capital projects, and so we're probably gonna try to have this update maybe once a month, but it's an opportunity for you guys to ask questions if there's something we haven't highlighted, and I know we got it right, Carol, because we say update on engineering projects, so if you have a question about something we haven't talked about, you can ask us, and between all of us, I bet you we have an answer, or we'll get you an answer.
Well, I just think it's good that we're doing this kind of capital work on our streets and our infrastructure, because we've got some aging infrastructure and some aging streets. So the fact that we got enough money to do this sort of thing is very pleasing. So.
Okay.
Gerald asked me about this, and Morale asked me about doing this once a month, and I think it'll be a good thing. And I figured I'd kind of start a cycle of projects and go through them, and just, you know, maybe every couple months we'd be revisiting what's there. So appreciate the time. Thank you all.
All right, thanks, Jason. All right, item 3.3, update on beautification efforts along Garrett and Van Buren.
Yeah, this is an update on some requests from Commissioner Saragusa and Commissioner Orr, and specifically Commissioner Orr, to put it on the study session to talk about our timetable. What this, so you have before you a sheet. It's a schedule of what we're working on. It's really focused on our corridors, 412 and 81. It's really focused on some immediate things we can do to make those, to improve the way those look. And so we're focused, you can see the timeline we have. We're looking at this month, trying to get all the broken curbs picked up, of which there are many. Curbs don't seem to survive very well in our town. And then they just lay there until somebody picks them up. Well, we're going to pick them all up. You get a hodgepodge of stuff when you go through there. You see that some lots are edged nicely and some aren't, so we're going to take the lead on that, working with the residents. Some of it's our property, some of it's residential property. I don't know that we don't have a code or an ordinance against letting grass grow over your curb that I'm aware of, so we'll probably take that on with a combination of just doing it, the city doing it, and probably sending some encouraging letters to folks to try and develop some cooperation in our effort. You can also see we're straightening signs. That's an effort to do that. The Boggy Creek down there by the park looks not very good right now. It's got a lot of trees in it. We've cut some of them out. We haven't mowed it yet. We will have that cleaned up from St. Mary's all the way to the Clayton-Nolan Bridge. So it ought to look pretty good coming through there. We're also going to make sure, as you drive through there and look at Government Springs Park, we'll make sure it looks good. The sidewalks that you can see, we'll make sure those are nicely edged. And we may have a couple other things on there. If there's some things that you think we're missing, now's a good time to let us know, because this particular effort is focused on trying to get things looking good on what we're calling the corridors or the entryways before the holidays. So that's what the update is, and I look forward to your questions or your input.
Okay. You ready? Good. Artie. Thanks, Cheryl. Appreciate it. Item 3.4, discuss proposed changes to the city's purchasing ordinance. Ordinance, that sounds like a Carol thing.
This is a pretty standard item. All we're doing is conforming to state law, and they have increased the amount for for competitive bidding of contracts from 50 to 100,000, and they've increased the limit for a emergency contract from 35 to 150,000, and they have also decided that our contractors cannot use letter of credit instead of in lieu of bonds.
Okay.
So that's all that the ordinance does. And It does carry an emergency.
Okay.
That's not hugely important, but, 6 votes. And the 6 votes would pass it with an emergency. And the letter of credits can't be used past November.
Do we have a lot using letter credits instead of bonds?
No.
Okay. No other questions?
Some, but not many.
Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn and reconvene at 6:30.